All right. Well, hello there. As promised, I am going to be going through that New Yorker article, which, as I thought, was kind of silly and histrionic, but did contain little kernels of goodness sprinkled throughout. Primarily not dealing with the main subject matter of the article, leaving America because Trump be so scary, but dealing with this writer's life, her experiences, and her musings on the differences between living in England versus the United States, etc. Her mental states as a writer, blah blah. All done pretty well. Prose is nice, very flowy, but daft. So, I am in fact a supermom, somehow. I'm sure in this current year that might well be possible. But there's a sad story behind this cup, which I will perhaps recount later, or perhaps never. Yeah. Right then. So, the writer's name is Rebecca Mead, and basically, what happened was she came to America to work, ended up finding somebody here, marrying them, and having a child. And as such, eventually coming around through a laborious decision-making process to, get an American citizenship. And that was a big step, apparently. But I think it was spurred, if I'm remembering correctly, by Obama's being elected and how inclusive everything felt, and hoorah, all that jazz. I actually voted for Obama back in 2008. That was when I was actually 18 years old. That was the first time I could vote. And the reason I voted for Barack Obama back then is because he seemed a good alternative to the other candidates that were running at the time. I was a bit more measured. He was new in the political spheres that I knew anyway, and he claimed that he was going to defend the Constitution, and I'm pretty sure he was a constitutional lawyer or some such thing, and it all seemed very good on paper. Obviously, his policies turned out to be a continuation in a lot of ways of the Bush administration. He did try to make some changes to, the way that we take care of people's health in this country, but didn't really end up going too well. But I'm not going to go down that ridiculous rabbit trail here. All that I'm saying is you can't really call my defense, and I don't know if anybody would, but just knowing how people latch onto stuff of Donald Trump and my reaction to this person's story, you can't really attribute that to me being some kind of a right-winger or whatever. Like I said in my previous videos, it's very difficult for me, even myself, to put myself on any kind of a spectrum. Just because I tend to follow issues, and whoever kind of makes the most sense on the most issues is who I will support. Or I won't support anybody at all, and I'll just state my case. I think that's pretty rational. I don't think I'm any more rational than most people. It's just that some people think that it's more practical to adopt a party, and I just don't think that's the case. But that's a difference of opinion. Anyhow, moving right along to the subject matter at hand, these were the silly bits that I thought kind of highlighted. To me at first I was like, well, why am I calling this person silly or histrionic? It's just because she seems so rational a lot of the time when she's writing, and then suddenly you see her weeping because Trump got elected with a bunch of other New York people. It's like, oh my God, weeping. I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton at all. I think it would have been very bad for the country for her to have been elected. She's very corporate, but I would not have wept. It started out saying, Where's that weeping passage? I don't know if she used the word weeping, but that's the picture I got. It's just a bunch of blubbering neoliberals. And, saying that with disdain feels a little bit cheeky, but there's just so much corporatism involved. And what do I mean by corporatism? Well, basically, the policies that are supported by neoliberals are not good for the common man, which is who they mean to represent, and they also kind of have a pro-war agenda a lot of the times, which mirrors, oddly enough, the neocons. I don't know if anybody's familiar with these ideas or these thoughts, but they're out there, and they make a hell of a lot of sense if you stop to think about it. Anyway, see, this is good. She's got a good grasp of American values in terms of pluralism of opinion. But then why did she leave? Because other people's opinions gained precedence in a way, in a political sense. Becoming a citizen did not require me to conform to some narrow definition of what an American is. It proved that the definition of an American was expansive enough to include me. And when I witnessed new nativist rumblings in the country, I felt a fresh sense of engagement and of indignation. So, I don't think that there's nativist rumblings. There's always been people that are kind of racist. And there's always been people that are like, well, it's a good idea to have a strong national identity as being American, and that it's okay to celebrate your heritage, even if you're not Mexican or something. I don't know. And I think that a lot of whatever the new national pride of, say, people celebrating their Anglo-Saxon roots or whatever it would come from is as a reaction to people casting aspersions on that, as if it's an innately a bad thing. So, but, she says, did not require me to conform to narrow definitions of what an American is. And, she could still be an American and still express disdain or distaste for the way that the country was going, which is fine. But she didn't stay in the country because Trump was just too dramatic. At some point, it seems like she said that's not why she left. It was a combination of reasons, but then it seemed like she came back to it, which could be a misreading on my part. It's quite a lengthy article, and I was going to try to do this a little bit more professionally, as in do a bullet point where I take notes and such. I don't know if I have the time for that, but yeah. Generally, I'm getting across the main points here that, that this woman was really of that bent of when Obama got elected. They took her and her husband took their 3-year-old child out into the streets to celebrate, which is fine. Great. That sounds like a beautiful family moment. I also was happy because that's who I happened to vote for in 2008. But as time went on, I realized that not everything was as dapper and urbane as it appeared. And I don't understand how anybody who's obviously as intelligent as this person is never went through that process and wept when Trump got elected. It's, yeah. So when I was talking about her musing on, things literary, of having a literary mind. Okay, so what she had actually said didn't really have to do with writing per se, but with how her nature as more of an observer than a joiner was suited to the career of journalism, which was to be hers when she moved to New York. And I thought, this is why I associated two thoughts. I thought that that's actually really good, that you observe things, that you take a stance back, and that's your power as a writer, to take things in without being really too terribly involved with them. And obviously later on, you can take a more informed stance and be vehement on issues. There's all kinds of writers in writing, but I thought that spoke to one of the powers of writing, because what is writing? It's observing the world and describing it. And the more you do that, the better you get at it. And so yeah, that's the reason why you should read things, because you can connect stuff, even in an article that has nothing to do with any kind of thought like that, really. Just her talking about her life and her personality lets you go on to little rabbit trails like that. And that's why, despite all of the silliness that I just described, I liked reading the article. And that's going to be it. Take care, guys.